Yeah. Okay, let's go. Fractions, decimals, percentages. We are going to be looking at converting between all of them. Okay, so just check out I've uploaded for you a document which is like a table, a conversion table. Okay, so fill that in whilst you're watching the video. And fill it in your own words. It's a how-to guide. Okay, you'll be able to come back to that for years to come. Right, so the first one I've done, I've got 6 of these, okay, first fraction to decimal, then fraction percentage, so on, okay. The first one I've got is fraction to decimal, okay, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to do it. I've got 3 examples of each. So to turn a fraction into a decimal, what we have to do is remember that this fraction line actually means to divide, okay, and to get the decimal, we complete the division. So I didn't actually learn this until fairly recently, actually, and it just blows me away every time, that our division sign, oh, are we refocusing? Hang on, let me turn off that autofocus. There we are. That division sign is actually a fraction with like 2 little dots where the number should go, like our little placeholders. It's pretty cool, okay? It might help you remember that fractions are just divisions. So the first one here, we're going to do how many times does 5 go into 1? Okay, 1 divided by 5. Now, I know you guys like this method. We call it the bus stop method, I guess because it kind of looks like people queuing. I quite like this method. It works. How many times does 5 go into 1? It's too big, isn't it? So just to remind you, we've done this before, but what we do is we turn the 1 into a 1.0. Okay, because it's the same number, we've just given ourselves another decimal place to work with, okay? Yeah, another place to go to there. So we're going to carry that 1 forward, and we've got 0 up there, okay, because it went in 0 times. We're carrying the 1 forward. So then we've got how many times does 5 go into 10? Well, it goes in 2 times, and there's no remainder. There's nothing left over. So we're finished, but we have to remember to keep and this is why you've got to be really neat, we have to keep our decimal place in a neat line, okay? So if it's there on the bottom, it goes there on the top. So our answer, 1/5 as a decimal, is 0.2. Okay, so we're going to use the next one now, 6/8. Now we could do it the exact same way. And the thing I'd suggest to check first is your fraction in its simplest form? Because that's going to make it so much easier to work out, okay? So first of all, I'm going to look at that and say, actually, I know these are both divisible by 2. Okay, and I'm just going to simplify that down to its simplest form. You should be happy with this. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Okay, so I'm going to get 3/4. Okay, it's the same fraction, we've just simplified it. And now I can do 3 divided by 4. So the 4 comes on the outside, the 3 goes inside. And 4 doesn't go into 3, so we pop a 0. We're going to have to go into decimals, which is what we're expecting, because that's what we're aiming to do. So 3.0 we're going to go for now. Carry the 3 forward. So now we're looking, how many times does 4 go into 30? Okay, well 4 times 7 is 28, so that leaves us with 2 left over. So we can put the 7 up, can't we? 4 times 7, and that remainder of 2, we'll have to pop another 0 on here. Okay, and pop the 2 there, because we can never just write remainder 2. We don't do that past primary. Okay, and now we've got 4s into 20, which goes 5 times exactly, so we're finished. We've just got to remember to put in that decimal. So 6/8 as a decimal is 0.75. Okay, and the last one, again, we've got common factors here. Okay, and it's actually 4. 4 goes into both. So I'm going to divide by 4 on the top and the bottom. Okay, putting little arrows just to show what I'm doing, what my train of thought is. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So we've got a quarter now. And again, we're going to do that division. So 4's into 1 doesn't go. Pop a 0. We're going to turn the 1 into a 1.0 with a 1 carried over. So 4's into 10. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. And we can't go any higher, so we're going to put the 2 up here. And that leaves us with a remainder of 2. So there we go. 4's into 20 go 5 times. Completed now, that doesn't have any remainder. And again, put that decimal in the same place. So 0.25. So that's the first one. On that sheet, You go down the side, I think it is, you look for fractions and then go across the decimals, and in that box is where you write a kind of a how-to. If you can squeeze in there, maybe put an example as well, just to remind yourselves. Okay, the next one, fractions to percentages. Okay, now there are two different ways to do this. I'm going to show you one, and then I'll mention the other one briefly. At this point, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but I'm just going to show you one for now. Now, we've got to remember, first of all, this word percent. Okay, now this is one of my favourite parts of maths, okay, and it's kind of like, we call it etymology. It's the history of words and where the words come from. Percent, if we put that as two different words there, separate it out, well, per means for every, cent actually means 100. Okay, you had a centimetre, okay, there's 100 centimetres in a metre. You've got, I mean, you could probably think of loads of these. We normally have lovely discussions about this in lesson. And I was told by a student, and I didn't know this one, a centurion was a Roman soldier who looked, well, Roman soldier who looked after 100 soldiers. Okay, so the word cent, it comes up all over the place. Cents, you get 100 cents in a dollar or 100 cents in a euro. It comes up everywhere. So it might just help you to remember that percentage is per 100. And that's what we want to do. We want to convert this into something over 100. That's what our aim is. Okay, because once we've done that, we've pretty much cracked it. So I need to think, what do I multiply 25 by to get 100? Now, if I can't think of it, I could always do 100 divided by 25, and that'll tell me what it was. But I can see it's 25 multiplied by 4 gives me 100. So as always with fractions, we do the same to the top as we do to the bottom. Always do the same. Okay, so 7 multiplied by 4 is 28. And once we have got this written out of 100, we can just take the numerator, that's the number on the top, and call it our percent, 28%, because it is per 100. It's great, isn't it? So this one here, going to do the same thing. I want it to be out of 100. Okay, I want it to be out of 100. Now this is a nice one because 10 multiplied by 10 is 100. So do the same on the top. Multiply by 10, I get 60. So my percentage is 60%. And the last one, a bit of a smaller number on the denominator this time. So we want something out of 100. Now I'm going to tell you it is 5 multiplied by 20. But if you had done 100 divided by 5, the answer is 20, okay? So that's another way to do it if you can't just quite think of it. So we times the top by the same, multiply by 20. We get 20 out of 100, so it's 20%. Okay, now that's my favourite way to do these, but it doesn't always work if this number doesn't turn into 100 easily. What if that had been 17? That would be horrible. We can't turn that into 100 so easily. Okay, so the other option, this is another choice here, which you will need to use at some point, but not too much this year, don't panic, is to actually convert it to a decimal first, okay, in the same way that we did here, okay, and then convert your decimal to a percentage, which I'm going to show you in a couple of sheets' time, okay. But that's another way to do it. It's another way around it. So I'll just remind you about that when we get onto the decimal to percentage. That's the nice thing about these. You can use different bits of little areas and they all seem to work together. So the next one, decimal to fraction. Oh, I like this one as well. I think I like them all. I have to, I'm a maths teacher. So this one here, I'm going to write a little kind of key up here. So we've got our units, a bit of place value, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, okay, and so on, okay. That's important here because it's quite a straightforward thing as long as you're organised. What we've got here, units and tenths, okay. Now what you need to look for is after the decimal place, how far is the last number? So here actually it's just the 1 and it's under the tenths column. So we can write it as 1 over 10. It's out of the tenths. This one here, we're going as far as the last digit is in the hundredths column. Okay, so we can write it as 75 over 100. Okay, for this one here, units, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. The last digit is in the thousandths column. So we can write this number over 1,000. Okay. It's quite nice, isn't it? As long as you're organised, keep things nice and neat and in proper columns, you should have no problems. Now, these two here actually can be simplified, and I'd always recommend doing it if you can. It's always good practice. Common factors here is 25. So I'm just going to pop that on once. Divide by 25 gives us 3/4. Okay, divide at the top and the bottom by 25. Oh goodness me, I've not picked out a very nice number here. Well, they're both even, so let's start off by halving them, okay? So we're going to get 107 over 500. 107 is a prime number, so that can't be simplified any further. Please don't go away thinking I'm a mathematical genius. I did check that a moment ago just to make sure, but it is a prime number, so we can't simplify it any further. Okay, so that's decimals to fractions. Make sure that one's written down, a how-to. Decimals to percentage. Now, this is the one we were just talking about. So decimal to percentage is lovely because we just need to multiply by 100. Okay, and just remember how we do that. What we're doing is we're moving everything to the, a lot of people, I need to be kind of technically correct here. A lot of people say we're moving the decimal place. And in my head, that's how I see it. That's how I was taught it when I was at school. Technically, we're not. The decimal place never moves. What we're doing is we're moving all the digits. However, on paper, you can only imagine the mess that would make. Okay, so I think as long as you know the decimal place isn't moving, you're okay to sort of just do it that way. Okay, it's not a problem. So here we are. We're going to move it this way. 2 places, okay, because there's 2 zeros in 100. Okay, so we're multiplying by 100. It's going to land here. So technically, I'm not going to say this again, but technically all the numbers have actually moved this way, okay? So yeah, so I'm just going to come down a line now, and we're going to keep the 5 here. We need to put a place filler in here, so we're going to put a 0, always a 0, and the decimal place is going to go there, but actually there's nothing after it, so we can just leave it because it's 50%. Okay, this one here, we're going to do it again, the same thing, multiplied by 100, so it's going to land up here. So let's bring these down, 6, 7, and this time the 4 comes after the decimal place, which is okay. You can have decimals in with percentages, 67.4%. That's fine. This one here, now people always slip up on these ones when there's this 0 here. Okay, they dive in and they go, it's 10%. I can see it's 10% because that one's 5%, 50%. Okay, and it doesn't work like that, okay, because actually, if you just carefully watch, 1, 2, it's going to land here, isn't it? So we're going to end up with 1, okay? It's just going to be 1%, so just be careful when there's a 0 there, okay? I know you guys, we've certainly done this earlier in the year, and you should have covered it last year as well, so this is really a recap, so you should be okay with those. And again, let's just tie that back to what we were doing a minute ago, which was, where are we? Fractions to percentages, like we were saying. If we had a really horrible number we couldn't kind of put over 100, which happens sometimes, we turn it into a decimal and then multiply it by 100, okay? And that gets you to your percentage. Right then, the last two, percentage to fraction, percentage to decimal. These are the nice, actually. I've saved the nicest till last. So, 14%. Remind ourselves, percent means out of 100, per 100. Okay, so 14 out of 100. Done. Okay, let's simplify it. But they're both divisible by 2. So we get 7 out of 50. And 7 is a prime number, so that doesn't simplify any further because it's not a factor of 50. This one here, 70 out of 100. 70 out of 100. Both divisible by 10, so we get 7 over 10. And the last one, be careful again here, with these small numbers, the ones that are less than 10, that's where people seem to slip up. We get 5 out of 100. It's still out of 100. And we can simplify that, both divisible by 5, and it will give us 1/20th, okay? So that's percentage to fraction, and the last one is percentage to decimal. Don't want to drag these on all night because I know you want to crack on with the work. This is quite a nice one. It's just the opposite of what we did to get decimal to percentage. So instead of multiplying by 100, we're going to divide by 100, okay? So this time, just got to remember where the decimal is because we can't always see it, but it is there at the end if we can't see it, okay? And we're going to go this way this time, okay? So we're going to get 0.79. And 0.79 is okay. We tend to like to pop that 0 in front, 0.79, just so it's a bit clearer, okay? You might not do the point very bold. It could get misread as something else. So here we are, decimal is actually here if it was to be written. 1, 2, so it's going to land just in front of the 5, so we're going to get 0.52, which we'll pop the 0 in front of it again. Okay, and then the last one, the 4%, 1, 2. Okay, so we're going to have to pop a 0 in there as a place filler. 0.4, okay, 0.04. That's the one people will trip up on if they go into, okay, so just go steady. Right, I won't keep you any longer with these. Make sure you filled in the sheet. I think you should be fine with these, okay. Make sure you filled in that sheet and then you can use that to help you with the questions I've set. Well done, folks, thank you.